What is going on today, you beautiful blessed boys and girls? Thanks so much for tuning in. We got the poker vlog update. We're going from 3K in our bankroll to 100K in our bankroll. Gonna give you guys an update on that today. Also gonna break down a really fun and cool hand that I played here at 50NL online a couple weeks ago. And then give you a fun story and kind of update you as I always do with a fun poker story from my past and some kind of lessons I think you guys can learn from that. So let's hop in, baby. So our bankroll is currently sitting at $9,147. I think we're about 3.5, 4 months into the challenge. We started with 3K. We're on our way to 100K. We got some fun plans for that along the way. This is 99% been online. I did play one live session, had some buddies in town. We went to see some college basketball games recently and played about 90 minutes of 1-3 at the win with them. It's a $500 buy-in. We would have had over 10K in our bankroll. I'm not a woulda, shoulda, coulda guy, but I will say we got an aces all-in pre-flop. My buddy is there. He can confirm this. The other guy had king, so it's a cooler. It is what it is. But it was about a $1,050, $1,070 pot, something like that. The flop is safe. The turn is safe. Bang, river's the king, man. As he's like shoving the chips my way, he hits the king. Guy's whole mood changed, and he became really chatty. You see this a lot of times in live poker, man. They win a pot, they can't stop talking. But anyway, that was the only live session I played. I will plan on playing a lot more live poker when my kids go back to school here. Probably about 7-8 months, or not back to school, but when they start school here in about 7 or 8 months. But until then, we're mostly grinding online. So $9,147, we've officially more than tripled up. We're pretty pumped up about that. Pretty happy, a really good December, just cashed out again. I think I have a $29.80 online now, and we just keep building the bank account up, earning a little interest on the money now too as interest rates go up. But I'll keep you guys updated on where we go with that bankroll. As always, I do want to mention, man, comment, like. If you share the video, we're giving people points, and then we're going to have a random drawing here where I'm going to put 3-4 people, I think 4 we decided, into the Colossus event at the World Series of Poker. I'll pay for your hotel. I'll pay for your buy-in. We can hopefully hang out while you're here a couple days and have some fun. So if you want in on that, just comment below, I'm in, or comment anything down in the comments and you're automatically entered for that contest. I'm going to go ahead and break down a pretty fun hand I played here recently at 50NL. It was a 4-handed game. The villain in this pot is a really splashy player. He had over 200 big blinds to start the hand. I just had around 50 big blinds. I had just started my session, but already noticed that this guy was pretty spewy and kind of playing every pot. Had never seen him before, but he go ahead and he opens from the cutoff to $1.43, which is almost 3x. Folds to me in the big blind, and I look down at King Jack suited. Now, I think you can go a lot of ways with this hand. It's a pretty slam dunk call. I think anything but folding is obviously pretty reasonable. A lot of times I'll go ahead and 3-bet these hands, especially versus a cutoff open. I'm going to be kind of smashing their range. It's from the cutoff, they should be opening like a King 8 suited, a King 7 suited. They have a lot of holdings, right? 5, 6 suited, 7, 8. You can name a million hands that they could show up with here. I get 40% of the way to a royal flush. I see no reason not to just go ahead and 3-bet, so I do. I choose a size of about 12.5-ish X here and go ahead and bump it up. He makes the call in position, which, I kind of assumed he was going to do, not fold much. And so we go ahead and see a flop. That flop comes down King high with a kind of coordinated board of King 7, 8. I choose a pretty large sizing here, and I do this. I won't do this against what I think are professional players. I'll stay very balanced here, but I think it's important to note when you're playing guys who you don't think are pros, who, I've played 20 hands with a guy and he's played 17 of them, he's going to be in there with a lot of stuff. And so when I flop top pair, I'm so likely good here, and I don't need to think about, well, how would I want to play jacks and 10s and all my other holdings here? I just need to think about, this guy doesn't really even think about what I have. He's probably kind of that level 1 player just playing his cards, and so I don't really need to be balanced at all here. So I fire a pretty large bet, about 70, 80% pot. Thinking I can get called by all kinds of gut shots, draws. If he has a 7 or an 8, I don't think he's folding out. Now, of course, we could be beat. He could have King 8. He could have King 7, 7, 8. There's hands that beat us, but I want to start building a pot as it's very likely I have the best hand. He go ahead and makes that call. Now, the turn is the 10 of spades, bringing a flush draw. That's a pretty coordinated board. Again, now Jack 9 got there. We got, 7, 10, 8, 10, King 10. All these hands beat us. And this is where I think a lot of players make a mistake, right? There are a lot of hands that beat us here. But again, thinking about his whole range of hands, he gets 7, 9, 8, 9, 10, 9, Jack 10 if he calls a gutter. He could have a lot of hands here that really are never going to fold. This kind of player is never going to fold, and we're still good against. So there are these specific spots that come up in poker where, yeah, I'm very likely to have the best hand here, but I can also get stacked. I know that going in, and I think too many players kind of have this emotional thing, well, I better check here and play it safe. No, the goal of poker should be to win the most money when you're in the pot. And so, yeah, there's definitely times where he's going to have 2 pair and I'm going to be in trouble here, right? But I think the best line here is to just go ahead and bet close to pot with the intention of seeing what a lot of rivers come out. Now, there are a lot of terrible rivers, but I think we need to build a pot while we likely have the best hand. So I go ahead and do that. I think I bet about 90% pot, and he snap calls. So right when he snap calls, some things are going off in my head. Hey, I don't think he has sets here. I don't think he has 2 pairs. I think he jams all those. So I definitely think I'm ahead, but I think there's a hand, maybe pair and a flush draw type hand, pair and a gut shot, pair and a straight draw. Some kind of hand like that he's definitely not going to let go. This guy who plays every hand is very splashy. And so when he calls, I'm kind of starting to rethink my river. It's probably not going to be a jam. If it's a brick, I'm probably going to check a lot and let him hang himself. And so the river does come down a pure brick. It's glorious as it misses pretty much everything. I tank for about 20, 30 seconds with the intention of check calling here. I check. I can't check soon enough, and he just jams all in right away. Again, I can be beat here, right? There's some hands that he can definitely have that I'm beat, but again, my plan was to go ahead and check call this, and so I do, and he shows the 5-6 of spades. So he flopped an open-ended draw, turned a flush draw 2, and our reads along the hand, and I think that's where it's so important to kind of look through the hand and what's making sense. What's the story he's telling me? By snap calling that turn, the story he's more telling me there is, hey, I've got some kind of pair draw, maybe big kind of draw, some hand I'm not willing to let go, but this board is so drawy. If he had a set, if he had 2 pair, he's probably going to jam in himself there. And so when you're thinking about on that river spot, do I just want to jam my last, 45 big blinds, or do I want to check and try and induce him to bluff against a player specific like this that's splashing around playing, 70, 90% of pots, and he's willing to fire in money? And he's told you that story kind of along the whole way. Hey, I probably don't have a massive hand here. I think this guy would probably defend like a king 6 suited, things like that. But I don't think he just snap calls the turn like that, right? I think he maybe thinks about it a little bit. So when he snap calls, it tells me a little bit more of that story. I listen to that story. I let him hang himself. And I think that's a big part of even playing lower stakes. Guys will kind of tell you what they have if you just pay attention. Now, that doesn't happen if you got a movie on in the background and you're on Twitter on the background. When I play poker, again, I talk about this a lot, even at low stakes now, even though I've played 12, 13 million hands of poker, my edge comes from being very present, not tilting, just trying to make the best decisions possible. So I think if you're in that case where you're trying to make some money playing poker too, you really need to create an environment where, hey, when I'm playing poker, all I'm doing is playing poker. I'm taking notes on guys and being very observant. That's where most of your edge is going to come from. Now, I'm going to share this final story here. And, a lot of times at the end of the video, I tell a fun, kind of lighthearted story. This one's pretty hard to tell, to be honest, as a Christian guy now, as a guy who is a really proud dad and loves his kids and his wife more than anything. I made a lot of mistakes in my early 20s. I made several $100,000 by the time I was 23 years old. And didn't come from, a ton of money. And so I felt like I was the richest guy in the world and did a lot of dumb things with my money back then. I'm going to share one of those here and today in hopes that maybe it helps some young kid or some young poker pro out there kind of learn from my mistakes. So every year we would come out for the World Series. It was a really awesome time. We'd get a house with a bunch of other poker pros and we'd play poker all day, kind of go out a lot of nights and just have a lot of fun. It really accelerated my learning. I got a lot better as I'd hang around a lot of these poker guys that were, better than me, as good as me, trying to get good too. And we'd share kind of, here's some hands we talk about our strategies, up my mindset, all these things like that. So we do that every summer. Well, it came one day, like midsummer of one of my first years out here. I believe I was 22. And a couple of my buddies said, hey man, Ty, it's like, 1 a.m. We're going to go out tonight, but we're going to go to a strip club. I think I'd only been to one of them before. It wasn't really my thing, but hey, my buddies were going. I'm 22, peer pressure's a thing. So I remember going. We walk into this place, man, and, I'll be honest, strip clubs are never really my vibe. I didn't really see the point of paying a lot of money to basically just have a girl who has no interest in you anyway. It just didn't really make a lot of sense to me. But I went in and started having drinks. We started having a few too many drinks. Well, turns out, man, and, I can't prove this, but, my buddy had one drink. That's it. He remembers having one drink. He was our sober driver. He drove us there, had one drink, and then literally just blacked out. He woke up, all the money in his wallet was gone. His card was charged $5,000. I don't remember a lot. I was a binge drinker back in that day, so I take full ownership. I'm not claiming that they put anything in my drink or anything, but my last memory is walking into this champagne room or something like that, and I woke up the next day with a $6,500 charge on my credit card. My buddy who went back there with me had a similar charge. So, all in all, this night cost us over $10,000. Now, looking back, how foolish is that, right? I remember waking up the next day and looking at my credit card and just being like, man, how terrible is this, right? Like, how many hands of poker do I now need to play just to break even from this stupid night? But I see this a lot with young players, especially, who come up and look, when you win money, when you're playing poker, and it's not like you're going into a job and you're clocking in, it's a different feeling, right? And there's something about these young poker players who they can't hold on to it. They get it and they just can't wait to buy the flashy car, which I did and made that mistake. They can't wait to go to the nightclubs, which I did and made that mistake. And if I could impart any wisdom to any young poker player out there, or even just, dude, you're a middle-aged guy trying to escape corporate. This is how I started to look at poker, right? This money is going to buy my freedom. And so, I would urge you, one, don't do dumb stuff going to a strip club. I'll be honest, I woke up that next day, I paid that bill, I took ownership of it, and I told my best buddy, Ryan, at that point, I'll never forget, I said, if I ever step foot in the strip club again, I will give you $10,000. This is 17 years later. I'm proud to say I've never been in a strip club again. I don't ever see myself going to any place like this again, man. I think they scam you a lot. I've heard a lot of stories very similar to this where they just come up and pressure you and essentially just take your money, man. So I recommend staying far away from these places, but I think it's an overall even bigger topic if you're a young poker pro or just somebody trying to build a bankroll, that there's a lot of these things that are looking to take your money, a lot of leaks, right? You want to look wealthier, more successful than you are, so you buy the fancy clothes, the fancy watch, the fancy car, when in reality, I always tell this to young poker players now because it's a common question I get. Well, I want to be a poker pro. What should I do? I say, you keep a certain amount of bankroll that you need, that you're comfortable to play all your games. And after that, I promise you might be 22 now and thinking, I just love poker so much, I want to do it my whole life. There's going to come a point where you don't want to grind 60, 70, 80 hours a week anymore. So when you get above that bankroll, buy assets. Buy things that give you money in your sleep. And, I look back and I did some of this when I was a young poker pro, and I'm grateful for it. And when I really met my wife and started using all of my excess poker winnings to buy assets, that's when I got to retire and fire my company at 37. I made enough money, honestly, by 26 or 27 to never work again. If I was wise and had done some of these things just to, get over my bankroll. Back then, I probably needed 80 to 100,000 in my bankroll to play. But I was winning 10 and 12,000 many days. I had months where I was winning, 60, 70K, couple different months in a row, without tournaments. These were just cash games. And so, I should have been investing all that money and putting that money away instead of doing foolish things like this. I think the nightclub trap, the car trap, all these things, these traps that, not even for poker players, but just for, you see a young guy, graduates college, he's got some debt, starts working a job, making a little money, he's making 80K a year, now he buys a $50,000 car. Like, man, you're hustling backwards there, So I really urge you to start to think, I changed my whole mindset around money. I'm grateful for poker for a lot of reasons. One is that I think if you do poker right, it really makes you a better human being. As I've journeyed through poker and had to change a lot of things and habits in my life to be a successful long-term poker player, it's really bettered my life too along that way. And so that journey towards self-improvement, I just urge you to start now, start to change the way you think about money. I made a video below and I'll link that. It's how I fired my company at 37. I talk a lot about this, what money really means. Money is just a tool to buy your freedom, as that's the way I look at it. And so now I'll link that below for anybody else who's interested. But main takeaway here, guys, learn from my mistakes, never do a strip club. Don't worry about the flashiness and impressing other people. Just have your own goals, your own vision, know where you want to go for your life. I appreciate you guys tuning in, man. I know I went a little heavy on that last part, but I try and keep these more light and fun. We'll have another update here coming in a month or so. I'm going to keep grinding away. I did make a play and explain video that I put out here about a week ago. I just recorded another one yesterday, and I'll put that out here in a couple days too. If you guys are enjoying those, man, let me know. I appreciate all the feedback, and you guys go have the greatest day of your life. Let's get after it, baby. Many blessings.